Alright, everyone. So this is Module 5, 5.3 in our textbook. It goes perfectly along with what we just finished. We're taking all of the stuff we just did, tables to linear equations, we turned graphs into linear equations, we turned slope into linear equations, we took lots of different representations, and we rewrote them as linear equations. Y equals mx plus b. We got one more thing we got to do with linear, and that's we have to take a story problem, turn it into a linear equation, and then be able to answer some questions. Okay, so we have two parts. Now we have two ways to write linear equations. The first way, most popular way, is y equals mx plus b. This is called slope-intercept form. We know it. M is our slope, b is our y-intercept. Now, depending on the story problem, sometimes y equals mx plus b is the best way to write the equation. Sometimes standard form, that ax plus by equals c. Today and tomorrow, we're focused on just y equals mx plus b. So all of these story problems, we are going to write them as y equals mx plus b, which means every problem is going to have a slope or a rate, and every story problem is going to have some type of starting value, initial, beginning. Okay? So this first one is a problem that's all done for you already. Right next to it are the steps that are taken to do this. So here are our steps, and this is a problem that's going through those steps. So, number one, read. You need to read the whole problem, start to finish. You should do it once before you do any type of underlining, highlighting, because as soon as you start highlighting or underlining, your brain toggles off of comprehending what you're reading. So before I start highlighting things, I'm just going to read this. Julia is saving for a new bike. She initially has $50 and plans to save $15 each week. Write the equation that represents the total amount saved, S, after W weeks. Now I'm going to go back and I'm going to highlight what's going to be most important to me. So Julia is saving for a new bike. Okay, that's the context, but it's not going to help us write the equation. She initially has $50. That's important. It's a number. We should highlight it. She initially has $50. And what does it mean initially? What does it mean initially? She has?
If you start initially, what part of the process is that? Beginning, middle, or end? Beginning. Initiate.
That's the start. She's starting off with $50 already. That's important. Okay, not only if we just say 50, there's no context to that number. $50, now we have a unit. We know it's $50 bills. But more importantly, initially, we know she's starting right now in her hands, in her wallet, in her Cash App. She has $50. That's the context of the number. We're giving life to that number. Okay. Next, and she plans to save $15 each week. Save $15 each week. And again, we're giving context to this number. It's not just 15, it's $15. She doesn't have the $15 right now, but each week she's going to save $15. So you can think of it as every week she's going to not have $50, but she's going to have $15 more each week. Now there's two more important things in here. Write the equation that represents the total amount saved, S. S is one of the variables we need to use in our equation. S stands for the total amount saved. The total amount saved, S. And lastly, we know W represents the number of weeks that will pass. Everything that's not highlighted is filler. But everything that is highlighted, we're going to somehow need to use to write our equation. So we've read. Of course, we stretch that out, but you'll get good at it. You won't have to, hear me blabber about it. You'll be able to just do it. Second step in green here. We need to identify the variables. We need to figure out where do each of these numbers and variables fit into the equation y equals mx plus b. We need to figure out where they all fit in. Y equals mx plus b. Okay, there are a total of 4 things we must identify. Right? Y, m, x, and b. 4 things. Now look, we definitely highlighted 4 things. Initially it had 50, saved 15 each week. The total amount saved is S, and W represents the number of weeks. Okay, we have 4 things, we just need to know which is which. Okay, so the dependent variable. The dependent variable is the y in y equals mx plus b. This is the y. This is the output. The output is always the total amount. It's how much we're trying to save, how much we have total. Okay? Y is the output, the dependent variable. Here, S is our y. Okay, this is our y in y equals mx plus b. S is the total amount saved. That's what our equation finds, or will find. Okay, so total amount saved S. Boom, used it. That's going to be our y value. The independent variable, this is our input. This is the x in y equals mx plus b. The independent variable is x. It's the value that we put in, that we input. Okay? It's a variable. And here, the only variable that we're inputting is W. W represents the number of weeks. What makes that independent is you can pick the number of weeks and put it in. You could be like, okay, 4 weeks, put it in, plug it in. 10 weeks, plug it in. 14 weeks, plug it in. It's independent. You get to pick the value. The number of weeks you get to determine, it changes. You can't pick how much the total amount saved is because that depends on our weeks. So this is our x value. And last but not least, we have our m and our b, our slope and our b. M is a rate, and there's always going to be a key word for rate. Down below, you'll see I have some key words written down. Slope, unit rate, rate of change, change in y, divided by, change in x, per, every, each. These are all words that tell us if a story problem has a slope. And do you see the key word in here? $15 each week. That's the key word. Each, per, change, rate. Those are words that tell us that number is the slope. 15 is the slope, the m value. Okay? M is $15 each week. Each is the key word. It tells us that that's the slope. And now all we have left is the b value. The b value, our y-intercept, is where the graph starts. The beginning amount. Initial. Okay, here, start, initial. Again, if you scroll down, they have lots of keywords to help you look out for. Starting point, begins with, fee, fixed, one time, initial value, B value. Those all mean that number will represent the B. Here our keyword is initial. She initially had 50. That tells us our B value is 50. We started with 50. And now we have our four things. S is our total amount. W is the variable for the number of weeks. That value changes. $15 is the slope because we have that keyword each. And $50 is the B value because we have the keyword initial, the starting amount. We had that at the beginning. And so it's time to use y equals mx plus b and just put everything where it's supposed to go. So instead of y equals mx plus b, we have s, the total, equals 15, our slope, w plus 50. That's the equation for this story problem. It's like y equals mx plus b, except for y in this case is s, and x in this equation is w. So this is the equation that represents this problem. We started with $50, and we're going to add $15 each week. Okay? And then last but not least, we'll use Desmos to graph our function. There's a picture of its graph. So this is what we're going to be doing for each problem. A lot of stuff. Reading, defining variables, writing the equation, and graphing. All of those things. I think the hardest part is right here, defining your variables. Because we have to take writing and comprehend it and turn it into understanding so that we can turn it into the equation. Okay? So let's start with our first problem. We're going to get 2 done today. So here's our first problem. And remember, the first thing you're going to start doing is take 30 seconds and just silently read it to yourself. Read that problem. All of it, start to end. So our first story problem of the day. A tutoring service charges a monthly subscription fee of $20 and $15 per hour of tutoring. What equation represents the total monthly cost C for H hours of tutoring? And now we go back. We're going to highlight what's important. What's important here? What will we use? A subscription fee of $20. What's our key word in there that tells us what it is? Fee. A fee is a one-time charge, right? You're going to pay your $20 one time. That's the fee. Right? You're not going to pay $20 over and over and over and over again. It's just one time. Okay? After this, we have $15 per hour of tutoring. And what's the key word there? Per. Per is going to help us understand what variable 15 is going to go in for. Now it's telling us which variables to use. Write your equation where the total cost is C. Total cost is C for H hours of tutoring. So we have our 4 things. Y equals mx plus b. There are 4 things we must define. So let's start with C. What does C represent? our total cost. Yep, this is our total cost. And y equals mx plus b, will the total cost be y, m, x, or b? What will it go in for? Is c the slope? Is it the b, the starting value? Is it the y, or is it the x? The total cost. The word total tells us this is what our equation finds. This is our y. This is going to go in for y when we are writing y equals mx plus b. Instead of a y, we're going to write in as capital C. Okay, let's keep going. We have h. H represents what? The number of hours of tutoring. Number of tutoring hours. This variable is the one that's we get to choose, right? If you think of yourself in this scenario, if you went in and, bought your tutor, who gets to pick how long you're going to tutor for? Isn't it you?
Yeah.
You get to pick that number, right? You get to be like, hey, I want to tutor for 3 hours today, right? You get to pick that, right? Do you get to pick how much it costs? No, they're determining that. Because this is the thing you get to pick. Like if you were imagining yourself in this situation, you get to choose how many hours. You get to choose, hey, I just want to tutor 1 hour. Since this is what you get to control, it's the x in y equals mx plus b. These are keys. Okay, and now we just have our subscription fee and our $15 per hour. Which one of these is slope, m? Is it the $20 fee or the $15 per hour? $15 per hour, and what's the giveaway? What word? This per gives it all away. That means that this is our rate, right? That's how much they're charging you per hour. You're going to pay $15 more than once if you're getting tutored more than 1 hour. Whereas our B value is our starting amount. Before you even start the tutoring, what are you going to have to pay? You have to pay, that's the starting cost. Okay, you pay it one time, and then you start your tutoring. So $20 is the initial fee. And again, yeah, fee's that key word. Fee means one-time payment. One time. Before you start paying, you got to do this first. Okay? So we have our 4 things, so we can write our equation. Okay? Remember, we're writing this in the form y equals mx plus b. So instead of y, we're going to put in a c. C equals m, which our m is 15. Instead of x, we're going to use the variable h plus our b, plus our initial fee, and our initial fee was 20. This is the equation that represents how much it would cost to get tutoring. And this makes sense. The total cost is equal to $15 times however many hours plus the $20 one-time fee. That would tell you how much your tutoring would cost you total. Okay, now I'm going to take a break from writing here, and I'm going to pull up Desmos, okay? We're going to use Desmos to graph this. Let me just pull it on over. Okay. When you're typing it into Desmos, even though the correct answer has the C and the H in it, Desmos only works with using Y and X. So I'm going to use Y and X as my variables, even though I know my answer had C and H in it. So we had Y equals 15x plus 20. And here is the equation of my line. Okay? It's not the greatest picture, but you can see it. Okay, so we are going to graph this. So if this is my red line, remember this point right here, that's my y-intercept, my start. I'm starting at 0, 20. Okay, I'm starting at 0, 20. I'm going to put a little point at 0, 20.
Just like if you guys were counting the slope, you find the y-intercept, you start there.
0, 20. In order to graph a line, I just need 2 pretty points. And again, the best way to do this is if you click on this and drag, it can help you find another point. So I'm going to just look for a nice point that crosses. So right here I see, if I can get there, another pretty point. 250. I'm going to graph the point 250. Over 2, up to 50. Now I can graph a line. So I only need my 2 points. Oh my gosh, it's laggy. Okay. Well, when it's done finally moving, there we are. Okay, so here's the graph. Now we have 2 questions we need to answer. What is the total cost of the service after 4 hours? How long could you get a tutor if your budget was $65? So when I'm reading this question, what is the total cost of the service after 4 hours? What number information did they give us? What's our number in number 4? 4 hours, right? You see how it says 4 hours? That means they're telling us what's H going to equal in our equation. H is going to equal 4. So this is telling us, hey, H equals 4. Now, if you want to be awesome and do it mathematically, you could plug 4 right in for H and figure out how much it would cost. If you're someone who's visual and you like using Desmos to help you out, okay, you just got to make sure you're nice and zoomed out. We can literally type in, instead of H equals 4 into Desmos, what would we type in? Where's the H in this equation? Yeah, we can write X equals 4. X equals 4. You're going to get a line, and I can see that right here, my blue and red line cross, and I can click on that. So after 4 hours of tutoring, how much is it going to cost? $80.
$6.
Yeah, $80.
Huh?
Yeah, $80. And again, if you did 15 times 4 plus 20, you would also get $80. Okay, 5 is how long could you get a tutor for if your budget was $65? Your budget. So this is an H. What represents our total? This is how much money we have total. So what variable is this? Is it our H or our C? This is C equals 65. C equals 65. In order for it to work in Desmos, we can't type in C. We have to use the variable, not X, but Y. Let's say my total amount I have is 65. Y equals 65. And again, I'm looking for where does my new line and my red graph cross? Right here. If I have $65, how many hours of tutoring can I get? 3 hours of tutoring. And you can always check, if you plugged in 3 for H, 15 times 3 plus 20 is 65. So that's perfect. Boom. Perfect. Okay, that's what an entire story problem looks like. It's a lot. You'll get fast at it though, I promise. We go next. I'm going to do a little less for you. So go ahead, read. Read number 2.